Hello everyone and welcome to my channel called Demon Storytime. Thank you so much for coming to my channel, for your likes, for your comments, for your donations. All information for donation you can find down below in comments. Today we continue reading Grimm's fairy tales, guys, and our story is The Young Giant. Once upon a time, there lived a farmer and his wife. The couple had a son, I'm sorry, who was no bigger than the farmer's thumb. Come on, I was reading this before. this was I or was not? Oh, no, I wasn't. Yeah, and one day, father and son were out working in the fields when an old giant came, stomping over the hill. He bent down and scooped up Tiny Tom, turned him round carefully, examined him, and then strode off with him without a word. The farmer was horrified, but he couldn't do nothing to stop the giant. He was down on the earth, broken-hearted, thinking he would never see his little son again. The old giant did not harm Tiny Tom, however, quite the opposite. He took him back to his own house and fed him and cared for him well. Time passed and Tiny Tom grew much taller and stronger. After 2 years had gone by, he had become the size of a young giant. Wow. The old giant was delighted. He decided to take Tiny Tom into the forest to see what he could do. Pull up a stick for yourself, he said. The boy was so strong that he tore a young tree out of the ground, roots and all. But the old giant thought, I'm sure I can make him better than that. So he cared for Tiny Tom for 2 more years and then took him into the forest again. By this time the land had become so much taller and stronger that they could rip a huge old tree out of the ground. Thought the old giant. I'm sure I can make him even better. So he looked after Tiny Tom for further 2 years and then took him into the forest once more. Now pull up a proper stick for me, he said, and the young man tore up the strongest oak tree in all the forest. Then the old giant beamed. Perfect, he said, and he showed Tiny Tom the way back to the field he had found him in 6 years ago. Tiny Tom's father was working there as usual, plugging the soil. He was terrified when he saw the young giant striding towards him. Hello, father, the young man boomed. Look what I fine fellow I've grown into. You're not my son, the farmer replied. You can't be. But I am, the young giant insisted. You go home and I'll plug the field for you. Plot? whatever. Tell mother to cook supper for me. I'll be back to see her shortly. So Tiny Tom's father went off, shaking his head and muttering to himself, while Tiny Tom unhinged the horses, harnessed himself to the plough, and ploughed the field in 5 minutes flat. Good lad. Then he strode off home. Who's that horrible tall man? Tiny Tom's mother whispered to his father as he paced into the farmyard. He says he is our son. Tiny Tom's father whispered back. How can he be? Cried his mother. Our son was just a tiny little thing. She brought him 2 massive dishes full of food, enough to feed her and her husband for a week. The young giant swallowed it down in a few mouthfuls and asked if there was anything else. So his mother put a huge cauldron on the fire and used all the supplies she had to cook up some stew. The young giant gulped it back and asked, What else have you got, mother? Nothing, she replied crossly. That's all we have. Oh, here is the giant eating all up. That's all we have. But I'm still hungry, the mighty man grumbled. Then he realized that he had grown too big to live at home anymore. Father, he said, I see that if I stay here, I'll eat you out of house and home, and that will not do. Sit down. I'll have to go out into the world and seek my fortune. The next day, the young giant said goodbye to his parents, took the thickest iron bar he could find to use as a staff, and set off down the road. Tiny Tom traveled over hill and dale and eventually came to a small farm where the farmer was looking for a chief worker. The young giant offered his service, and the farmer and his wife were delighted at the thought of having such a huge, strong man working for them. How much do you want as pay? The farmer asked. To his great astonishment, the giant replied, Nothing. Only after I have worked for you for a year, let me hit you 2 times. Let me hit you? What? Let me, hit you 2 times. Why would he want to hit him? The farmer and his wife thought the strange bargain was some sort of joke. Very well, they agreed, laughing, and thought no more of it. Next day, Tiny Tom started work. Early in the morning, all the farm hands started getting ready to go into the woods to chop trees. Get up, they told the young giant. You're our new chief, and you are still lying in bed. But he just said, Do as you like. I shall get the work done quicker than any of you. The other workers set off into the forest, and Tiny Tom stayed in bed for another 4 hours. Then he got up and slowly ate a huge breakfast. And while later he consumed a massive lunch. Only then did he storm off after the other workers into the forest. He met them as they were on their way home for the day, leading horses which pulled carts that were full of the logs they had cut. But the young giant wasn't worried. He just ripped the trees out of the earth, tossed them like much, much, matchsticks into a cart and pulled it back to the farm much faster than any horse could go, overtaking the other workers on the way. Here is the tiny giant, and the other worker is in shock, I think. Of course, the farmer was very pleased with Tiny Tom's first day of work. Look, he said to his wife, even if he spends most of the day asleep, he still finishes his work before all the others. So Tiny Tom served the farmer for a whole year, and then, when the other workers were getting their wages, it was time for him to have his 2 hits. Stand still, he said to the farmer. The farmer smirked and did as he was told, and the young giant hit him with such great force that the farmer flew up into the air and didn't come down. What? The farmer's wife began to shout at Tiny Tom in shock, but before she could finish, the young giant took the second part of his payment and hit her up in the sky too. Unbelievable. Whether they are still up there, hovering about, I do not know, but what I can tell you is that Tiny Tom took over at the farm and become the most successful, happiest man for miles around. The weirdest story ever. Thank you so much, everyone, and see you next time. Bye.